Welcome to the Read Your Keys podcast. I am your host, Joel Lopez. Today, my guest is Monica. She is on Twitter. You can find her at Take Heart Monica, and she also has her website, Take Heart Wellness. Welcome, Monica, to
Thanks.
the Read Your Keys podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And a fun little tidbit. This is actually our second recording. So she is my first official second guest who hasn't had a podcast released yet.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Satan got into your internet.
It was Satan.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason I had Monica on is that, when we interact on Twitter, we have a good time going back and forth, bantering and whatnot. But she's also a Christian and she works in comedy and she works as a therapist. So I thought she would be a great guest to have on here and talk to. So welcome again.
Yeah.
Monica.
Thanks for having me again.
So, just going right into it. I know that you had just announced that you were starting a podcast with Dev Clevenger, and how do you pronounce your name? Is it Christina or Christiana?
Oh, don't say Christina. It's Christiana.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. That's why I said, how do you pronounce it?
Christiana.
So yeah, that's exciting because I know Dev. I've had Dev on the podcast, and she's great to speak to, and you obviously put forth your opinion on things, not forcefully, but just in a entertaining manner, in a way that's like that creates I don't know if creates a stir, but just you put your opinion out there in a fun way, and I think Dev is the same way, and so I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see what you ladies have cooked up there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. When Dev presented the idea to us, we were just so excited because, I think we all have a similar mindset and get a lot of dialogue when we tweet things. And I think it'll be fun to have a conversation between the three of us about some of the things that come up. Right.
And I think on Twitter, I'm not a woman, obviously. But like, you guys get crazy stuff in your DMs, and like, I'm sure like that's like that in itself, to kind of be a fly on the wall, to kind of hear like what you guys come across on your timelines, or people in your responses. It would be fun to kind of hear what you ladies have to say about that.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting for sure. We have I've made some great friends on there, but there are definitely some interesting people that have found us and either don't like us or love us a little too much.
Oh, really? Have you gotten any proposals yet?
I've had people say like, marry me. I get a lot of, hey, why aren't you talking to me? Hey. I'm like, does that work for anybody?
Do they follow you or no? Or is it just kind of like out the blue?
Yeah, most of the time they follow me. I've had a couple people that don't follow me say some very obsessive, crazy things. You don't answer and they just keep going. And I'm like, I want to block you, but I want to see how far you take this.
Just for your entertainment, to see if it, I don't know, escalates.
Right. Insanity.
So when Dev is the one that kind of brought the idea forth to you ladies?
Yeah.
What was the idea for that?
She was like, we're always interacting on there and we just have so much fun. Like we all share similar views and we all still have fun, I think kind of like why you and I interact. And she had been thinking about it and didn't say anything. And then her husband, Jeremy, one day was like, you and Monica and Christiana should start a podcast. And she was like, that's a sign. Like, we have to do this.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, Big Germs. He's a good dude. Actually, and he actually called me the other day, and I was like, oh, it's kind of weird that like I met Joey Devlin and Tyler like Tyler came through, and like I met him. It's like the first time I'd ever met somebody from online in real life, and like talking to Jeremy, I was like, oh man, this is like really really cool. It feels a lot like high school at lunchtime.
Yeah.
If you're hanging out with the right people, and people are positive people, it's just like, oh, like, hey, that's that's the homie. It's like, oh, Monica's posting some nonsense, let me go ahead and reply back with some nonsense, and then just kind of keep it rolling. So I think the podcast is just kind of a natural progression of that too, right? Because it's like, hey, like I actually hate typing. That's why like I was kind of resistant to Twitter, because I just hate typing. I'd rather just talk to people.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I started. And I think that kind of could be the same for you ladies. It's like, okay, we have these interactions, but we can kind of expound on whatever ideas that we have within the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I think lunch table is a perfect way to describe it, because you become friends with these people. You talk to them every day, and you sound like a crazy person to people that don't use Twitter. You're like, yeah, my internet friends. And they're like, how old are you? But
nerd.
Yeah. I'm like, they're so cool though. And I'm like, yeah, I learned all these things on Twitter. And they're like, what? Like, people really, it's funny because so many people use Twitter. Like, that's where everything originates, every meme, everything. But people don't realize it. People that don't use Twitter think no one uses Twitter. It's so strange.
I see people say like Reddit is a big one too, where they get a lot of the ideas. They originate on Reddit, but I don't know how to use it. I'm probably like a little over a year into actually using my Twitter, because before, like, I had it when it came out because I kind of heard of it. And I had it, but then like I never used it. I think I deleted the app and then like just had the account. And I was listening to I like the Joe Rogan podcast, and he had Hotep Jesus on there, and he was just like talking about how great Twitter was. And I was like, well, this guy's I like listening to this guy, so let me go ahead and check it out. And so that was kind of when I actually got into it, and I had gotten really tired of Facebook. Like, it was just like this is not fun. Or I used to like reading articles and stuff, so like, oh, people would post articles and I would read articles. That's kind of how I used it, like I don't know, a magazine or a newspaper. And it's like, this magazine's no fun anymore, let me go find something else.
Yeah, I was thinking about it today. I was like, Facebook is like, I hate my wife, and Twitter is, I love my wife. Like, it's such different viewpoints of
really?
things. Well, Facebook's just, I mean, I don't know, I'm not on it anymore, but I got off of it because it's so negative. And there's negativity on Twitter too, but I think the both of us follow a lot of people that are very positive. And
right, you can curate you curate your timeline to kind of fit. I mean, you might call it an echo chamber, but
I like it
works
that
for
way.
me. Yeah, it works.
I hear enough bad opinions outside of the internet. I don't need them.
That's true, right? It's like, hey, you have an echo chamber. It's like, yeah, but I mean, if you watch the news or whatever, like that's an echo chamber. Or you listen to music, that's its own echo chamber too. So it's like, wait, you just want me to listen to your echo chamber?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
This is working for me. I've always heard I did some like leadership courses, and they're talking about like the stories that you tell yourself. So you could like tell yourself a story, and it's like, okay, you're telling yourself these stories, but is it helping you or is it hurting you? And the stories don't necessarily need to be true. It's just that if you're telling yourself a story, like, even if it's not true, is it going to move you in a positive direction?
Right.
So like my echo chamber, like, I don't know, I'm having quite a bit of fun. I'm meeting great people. I met you. Like, I really have a lot of fun, with the jokes, because like I like to joke. That's it's part of like who I am. And I didn't really think that I would get that off of Twitter. And I didn't really understand that, like, it was like, when I first got on, like, I would see people's comments. I was like, I have no idea what these people were talking about. It's like, no, this is like inside jokes that you're seeing, like, publicly. Just like, like if you were in the cafeteria and you heard somebody, it's like people are, laughing, and you're like, that doesn't even sound funny. But it's like, no, it's because they're whatever jokes they're talking about, it goes, from last week or 2 weeks ago, or they've been doing this for a long time, and I didn't realize that. It's like, oh, like, these people are like friends. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's from an outside perspective, you're like, what is going on? And then once you start to get into it, you start to meet people and kind come up with your own inside jokes and even get in on inside jokes.
Yeah, because I remember like I had seen first like somebody had posted something, and then like some of the replies were kind of mean, and I was like, well, like, these people are following each other. Like, why are they being so like? Why is he like being so nasty to him? But it's like, oh no, they're friends. Like oh okay, like that. Like I'm glad I didn't trying to come in and defend. Like, hey man, like you're over here talking mess, and this is a good thing. It's like, well, the standalone thought is a good thing, and this guy's over here just giving him crap. He's just busting his balls. But you wouldn't know that.
Yeah, you have no clue. I get that a lot on my tweets because 9 times out of 10, I'm just trolling. Like I say stuff just because I think it's funny, and people will get up in arms about it, and I'm like, okay, you don't follow me, so I know you don't know my sense of humor, but like, calm down. Like, go read through my timeline, and you'll start to realize that it's not that serious.
Yeah. I think in our original podcast we had talked about this. I think that we did that. Like sometimes like you tweet stuff. It's like I don't necessarily believe it. Like I might kind of believe it, but I really just think it's funny.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna say it because there's a part of me that's just kind of a button pusher, and I want to see what sticks, or I just thought it was funny and I'm just laughing for myself. So like I'm okay with you not getting it because I thought it was funny.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is like when you first, like, I'm pretty new to this. I mean, I had an old Twitter, but I didn't really use it, and I didn't really follow anyone that believed the same things I do. So now, like, I just started this one a few months ago, and picking up traction, like getting people paying attention to it, start to get so many haters, and it's so hard not to respond to them. So I'm still navigating that. Like, just let it go. Like, it doesn't matter. But I'm not used to, like, I pretty much get along with everybody, you know? And, but on the internet, I'm like, man, there's a lot of people that just don't like me now. But,
well, that's understandable. I had seen you post before that you had been working on like improv and things like that, and then with the shutdowns, do you think that this has kind of been a way for you to kind of use this as an outlet for you to kind of like get these silly ideas, or not silly ideas, but just the little thought bubbles that you have in your head to use them on Twitter?
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the reasons why I started one again, because I was like, I have so many things I want to say, but I don't know where to say them, you know? I make a lot of videos, like, so stupid. No one really watches it, but like Snapchat and Instagram stories, I'll make a lot of videos, like doing monologues of things. Like, I guess you'd call it stand-up, but it's really just me talking to myself. And I get a lot of interaction with that. But those are, people I grew up with and stuff like that. Not a lot of people that believe the same things I do. So it's been kind of cool to do the same thing on Twitter, but have it more like, faith oriented a lot of the times. So it's definitely a good outlet.
On Instagram, it's not.
On Instagram, it's just like my daily observations of things going on. Not really anything political or faith or anything like that.
So the Twitter is like the real Monica.
Yeah.
Unfiltered.
Yes.
For the this one's not for the children.
Yeah. Where no one I know can find me, except for the past couple of weeks. I've had all these people I know like, hey, I saw this. Like, it was on a meme page. And I'm like, oh no.
You made it on a meme?
Yeah. Like, oh no.
For what?
I mean, I'm not a meme, but like some meme page on Instagram screenshotted one of my tweets and like made a pretty background, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh no, they're gonna find
They're gonna find me. I'm gonna get canceled.
Are you worried about getting canceled?
No. I don't think I say anything too bad. Like, I hold back a little bit because I do have a job in the community and stuff like that. And I don't want the things that I say to be taken the wrong way or out of context or out of that. So I try to be careful, but if I get canceled, whatever.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Like I probably go like, I don't know. I'm probably going like 60%.
Yeah.
Probably.
Plus, we're not that famous. We're not even famous. I don't know what I'm talking about. Who's gonna cancel us?
but just like the risk of just the risk of like, oh, somebody's not liking what you said, and like getting, not that you're have something crazy, but just that it seems that some people are that sensitive where if they can use something to make an example of you, then they'll do
make a big deal about it. That's why I try to be as careful as I can to not put any of my personal information on there. No one can find me.
Yeah. Well, mine has like my name and everything. So
everyone knows you and your address and
probably. Oh man, that's but I mean, if people want to find me, they're gonna find me, right? Like there's people who are that savvy at stuff. It's just like,
they'll stalk you.
Yeah, my phone knows me. And, you know what? Speaking of phones, like I tried to go back to a flip phone, like
noble of you.
Like 4 years ago. Well, it was because I was coaching football, and I was like, well, I just got this new phone, and you know, I interact with the players and the kids, and I was like, I don't want to break my phone. You know, I spent a couple $100 on this thing. Like, let me get a flip phone. And then so I went to the store, and I was like, hey, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I want to get a flip phone. And the teenage kid was like, laughed in my face, like, you want a flip phone?
What's that?
Yeah. And it's like, I don't even think we have one of those. And he's like, I was like, go check in the back, see if you have any. And he went and found one. I was like, yeah, I want that one. And then so I got it, and it was really hard because like the talking part is like fine, but you know, my wife and I are texting. She's like, hey, this kid needs this, or this is what's going on, blah blah blah, and I'm trying to reply, and I'm like 222 333 777, and then like the next text is coming in, and it's just like, and now I gotta like, so I couldn't keep up with the text messages. So it was like, if we just went back to those, like there was like a flip phone that had like a keyboard on it, like I think I would have been all right. But those ones, like I can't find those anymore.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know.
But I made the college try. I was like, oh, this is just too hard. It's too hard, just because of the texting aspect of it was really what it was. Like the phone stuff was, I mean, you don't really talk on the phone that much, but it was the texting part that was the challenge.
Yeah, you need T9 lessons.
Well, I was never good at it to begin with. Like I never liked texting. Maybe that's why I don't like typing either. Like that's why I'm surprised that I'm on Twitter, because sometimes like I might want to respond to something, but it's just like, I don't want to type this out. I'm good.
Plus,
so
you're
usually like, go ahead.
You're a dad, right? So you guys have like dad thumbs, like they're too big. You hit the wrong buttons.
Yeah. Well, that too. Well, it's like, yeah, like somebody said something, and it's just like, oh, I'd like to respond. Do I want to type it out? My kid's asking me to play right now. Okay. So like sometimes like I'll post something, and like, you know, somebody like, hey, what are you saying? I was like, nah, I'm gonna go play with my kid.
Yeah. You're like, I'm leaving you losers. I have a real life.
I do have a real life, but it's fun. It's fun. Like it's my outlet. Like, you know, working from home, like at work, I would, you know, joke with whoever was there or talk to whoever was there. Yeah. But now that I'm working from home, it's like, oh, okay, like, can't say this to my kid, and my wife's busy, so this is what's going on in my brain.
So we're like really your kind coworkers. Of crazy.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, really. This is what's going. It's kind of crazy to think about. Like, this is what's going in my brain. This silly thought. Go ahead. Yeah. See what you think.
It's fun to like look back too, because you don't remember anything that you wrote like a few months ago. Like, what was I thinking? Mm-hmm. It's like a diary.
Is it your diary? A diary. That's funny. You type out, dear diary. Do you have a diary?
Like a journal? I have a journal.
Oh, sure. That's what they call it now.
That's the cooler way. If you say diary, you sound like a middle schooler, but like I'm an adult. That's true. I have a journal.
It's a journal.
Yeah. I do keep a journal. And everyone I work with, I try and force them to keep a journal. I highly encourage them to keep a journal. Yeah. Do you keep a journal?
I've tried.
But you don't like to type, so.
I don't like to type. I actually don't mind writing, but yeah, I guess I don't like I don't know. I don't like doing stuff.
Why do I have to do things?
Yeah, like I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, but they're all fragmented. So maybe that's why maybe I like Twitter, because I can like just spray a random thought and then like tweet something else that's totally disconnected from that. Whereas I feel like if you were like journaling, like it's like, oh, like this is what I'm thinking, like straight cohesive thoughts. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, it is a little more detailed.
How long do you journal for? Is it like a 30-minute thing for you, or is it just like, oh, let me just write a page?
I journal as prayers. So like I try and write out my prayers every day. Which is really cool because I can go back on it and, see how prayers are answered.
Yeah. That's
see
really
like,
cool.
Girl, what are you praying for? Like, that's not how you pray. Like, it just kind of keeps me accountable.
I'm over here praying illegal prayers.
Yeah.
I actually think that journaling, I think there's benefit to it. It's just that, I don't know. Like I wake up and like my goal for the week is like, let me go to the gym like 3 times a week. That's kind of my goal. And then I have a call with some buddies like once a week, and we've been doing that. We're going on like 9 years. So every week we talk. So I'll go on a walk and talk with them. So that's kind of like my way to kind of get things out and talk to them.
Yeah, that's great.
But I do see the value in journaling, just like I always saw the value in exercising, but just didn't mean that I did it.
Yeah. That is. Can you hear me? My headphone just went out.
No, you're good. Okay. Yeah, you're coming clear. Yeah.
There's a lot of research on journaling, and people that journal are happier. But I think it's like you said, like anything, like you have to have some sort of outlet, and I think that's what matters is that you have something where a lot of people they don't know how to focus on themselves. That's part of it, is just taking your thoughts and getting them out on paper and dealing with them. Not everybody has good people they can talk to, So I think there's a lot of benefit in it. I'm very sentimental. So I love looking back on things and looking at like, growth and stuff like that. So I love having it documented.
How far back does it go for you where it's been like a consistent, like, because I would like say if you looked at me, be like, oh, like I journaled for like, a month straight, maybe like back in like 2015, but then didn't journal again for, 3 or 4 years. Has this been a consistent thing that you've done for several years?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably been like 5 years. Now I'll take like, like sometimes maybe a week will go by, but like pretty much it's every day, at least like 3 to 5 times a week for all those years.
Do you find that that's kind of like clarified your thoughts for you? Because I could see that, like, hey, like, you're writing it down. It's like, hey, I have these mind experiments that I'm running in my head, or these things that I'm struggling with, and I'm able to kind of put them down on paper. Yeah,
for sure. I think the biggest benefit I get is I'll say something and I'll just like, I'll be like, I'm going to do this. Like I have this goal that I'm going to achieve, and I just totally forget about it. So writing it down for me just kind of imprints it in my brain and keeps me on track to the things that I'm working on. Because I'm very like all over the place, so it helps.
Are you very much like, I write a to-do list because it helps me to do things, or like you're like, hey, I have an app that has like my to-do list on it? Like what works for you?
It just depends on the day. I do make lists, but a lot of times I end up just not even paying attention to it. And I kind of just know what I need to do, and then I have the other stuff kind of on the back burner. It's like get to it when I can.
Well, you actually run your own business too. So like when you're doing all that stuff, is that pen and paper, old school, or are you like, okay, SharePoint or whatever technology tool to help you?
I use my calendar for everything. Like that's pretty much. I guess you call it
write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put it in. Well, no, I use my phone calendar. I just put everything in there. Things I need to get done, whatever. So I guess that's a to-do list.
How many emails do you have in there?
Oh my goodness. Let's see how many unanswered emails I have right now. 53,320.
Oh, wow. My wife thinks I'm bad. You're way worse.
Oh, and I try and like delete them. It was probably like a year ago, I sat and deleted everything, and now I have to do it again. I'm always like, I'm going to stay on top of this because it drives me nuts. And then every time I unsubscribe from something, I order something, they're like, you get 10% off if you sign up through my email. Yeah. So yeah, it's a hot mess. I'm very organized and disorganized at the same time, if that's a thing.
It's like, hey, on the things that really are very important, I'm like meticulous, but all the other stuff, it's like, okay. Yeah. Do you subscribe to the how you do one thing is how you do everything?
I don't know I don't know. I think for some things that can be true. I think that there's an overarching, like for me, like I'm big on commitment and stuff like that. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, but I'm sure there are things that I just try to find the easy way and get it done.
Yeah. Cause I've always kind of, I've heard that phrase, and it's like, I guess but it's like, I can see where I can be like red hot on one thing and stone cold. I could care less on another thing and like have like no effort or any kind of energy towards it. But the things that I have energy towards, like there are very few things that like really get my energy and get me like worked up. And it's just like, well, I mean, this is a cool saying. I think there's truth in it, but I don't know how true it is across the board.
Yeah, I think that it just all comes down to priorities. I think you're going to handle the things that are really important to you in a different way than you're going to handle the things that you just need to get done and don't really matter to you. You don't have any sort of emotional connection to it or anything.
I wanted to kind of go back to the improv stuff, because I think that was pretty cool. Like, how did you? Because to me, like, comedy is hard. Like, people will talk about like, oh, they'll be like, oh, Joel, you're funny, and like, yeah, I'm funny because it's like we're here at work, or we're here with your friends. It's one thing. That's one thing. It's another thing to be like, I'm gonna stand in front of strangers and just talk and be funny, or like do like an improv thing. So what kind of led you to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do? Because was it an improv team that you were a part of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was very young, one of my friend's moms was like, you're going to be on Saturday Night Live someday. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'd love that. But if I would have had drive as a kid, I think I could have done a lot, but I had none. I was just trying to get through the day, and a few years ago, I had nothing, like no extracurricular activities, like everything that I had been involved with, like kind of fizzled out, whatever. And I'm like, I need to do something, but I didn't know what to do. And I ran into a friend from high school, and I cracked a joke about something. He was like, your delivery is always so good. And I'm like, okay, like everyone always tells me to do stand-up, but I'm like, I can't do stand-up. I have good comebacks, but I couldn't stand up there and do a monologue, And I just kept thinking of what he said, and I was like, like a lot of the people that I would follow, like on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, it wasn't necessarily that they were super witty or anything. They did just have good delivery. And I was like, maybe I could do improv. Or no, I was looking for a stand-up class because you could like go and learn it, which I didn't know. And I saw an improv class, and I always loved improv. I did not know that you could take classes for it. I just thought that
what was that show? I think Drew Carey.
Anyway.
Yeah. Was that your jam?
I saw it a couple times, but I saw there was a little improv place. They would have like, I lived in this little like rundown town in college, and they had an improv team that would perform at this bowling alley. And there'd be like 3 people, and I found it somehow. It was like $3, and I would go every weekend, and I loved it. And I didn't know, I just thought that they just knew how to do improv. Like I didn't think you could learn it. So when I was looking for a stand-up class, I saw they had an improv class, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is really cool. So I went, and I just became obsessed with it. And I took all these classes. I was doing musical improv, and they had tryouts for their house team, which performed every other weekend. And I started doing some shows here and there, but never on an actual team that performed. And so I tried out, and there were all these people there. I'm like prepping myself, like I'm not going to make it. And they called me the next day and they're like, hey, you made the team. I'm like, oh my goodness. So it was so cool. And we were having such a good time. We were 4 shows in and we really started getting our groove, like getting comfortable with everyone that we're performing with. And it was just great. Like I felt on top of the world. It was the funnest thing I ever did. And then COVID came and they shut everything down. Yeah. And who knew that it was going to be this long, but I wasn't getting involved in anything else because I'm like, improv's going to come back. Like I'm going to go do it. And then it just stopped. Or eventually I realized like, oh, this isn't coming back anytime soon. It's been a year. So I started to find other things to do. Yeah. Tweet. But I would love to, the next thing I was going to do right before they shut everything down, I was about to sign up for a stand-up class. So I think that's the thing I'm going to try next.
Don't they just have open mics though? You can just kind of go and see.
Yeah, but I want to learn, like there's even just improv, like, yeah, you could go and just do it. People do. But I think there's a lot of value in learning some of the skills that they teach you. So that's what I want to do with stand-up. If I go up there and just bomb it because I don't know anything about it, that'll be discouraging. So I'd rather learn about it first.
Because I was watching, I think it was Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. And I don't know who he was talking to. I think he was talking like Steve Harvey. And I think it was him. It was somebody. I'm pretty sure it was Jerry though. And he's like, what are you doing in this comedy class? Like go on stage. Like you don't need a class to be funny. Like you either have it or you don't, and you kind of cut your teeth with it. But I could see that, like, totally bombing and being like, I'm not doing this ever again.
I do think it is one of those things, like you either have it or you don't. It's true. But I just taking the class is really fun, and they just really help. It helps to see in a safe place, like what, because even on Twitter, like you get momentum when somebody thinks your ideas are good or they think that something you say is funny. So sitting in a class and kind of getting that momentum from people you're comfortable with, they've gotten to know through classes, can do a little more to like help you push the limits and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just think it would be more fun to do that. I have a bunch of things written in my phone that I would do like as a stand-up routine. So sometimes like, oh, maybe I'll just try this sometime, but I don't know. We'll see.
Like do it in Instagram style. It's really weird though, right? Because it's like looking like I like doing podcasts like this because it's like, well, I'm interacting with somebody. I can see you, and so it's I get feedback, nonverbal feedback or whatever. Like, because I think I've done some where the person was anonymous, so I couldn't see a face or anything, and it was kind of a struggle just because, like, hey, we're talking like we would be talking on the phone, but like when I do a podcast, it's usually the first time I'm ever talking to somebody, so I have like no clue. Like they're like, hey, this Joel, he's pretty dumb, like like it, so it I think it'd kind of be the same, like if you were to do say like something and post it on Instagram, like I don't get any feedback, but I guess it's actually kind of safe though too, right? Because it's like you and the camera, and either they like it or they don't. Like you don't have to take that long walk of shame from the stage down.
Just delete it.
It's like, all right, this kind of sucked, like I'm gonna delete it.
I want to
start, the internet is forever.
I want to start posting some of the things I put on Instagram onto my fleets and Twitter, but they don't. You can only put like such a short video up that I think it's like
2 minutes 20 seconds, but it's actually like
I thought it was like 15 seconds at a time or something like that, because I tried to put something up and
for fleets.
Yeah, it wouldn't put
I
up
don't
the
really
whole
understand what the point of it. I do it sometimes because like I was like, hey, people are doing these fleeting things, so I'm gonna do it too. I have no idea what the point of it though.
I think it's just like Instagram stories. Like you can just put things up there that you wouldn't normally tweet. Like you don't want them permanent on your timeline, but maybe just something that you want people to see, you know?
I just screenshot like the ones that have like done really well and I fleet them.
Yeah, people do that too.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think,
Did you have a
it could
Did
bring
you have a
attention to
MySpace?
your page. Oh yeah, I was MySpace famous.
No way.
Well,
I thought it was
actually,
so dumb. Like I saw that and I was like, we were at work and I saw some girl like had like glitter, like shiny stuff on her page and music, and it was just like, what are you doing? We're grown.
My friend Bobby, he's verified now on social media, but he just a regular guy back then. Like we were teenagers, he didn't have a job. Like now he has a job and whatever that like I don't know, he takes pictures of models or something. But he was MySpace famous because he was one of the first people that made a MySpace account. And back in the day, when you were one of the first people before they had top 8, you would show up on everybody's page. So he was literally MySpace famous. And whenever they made top 8, he put me up there so people knew that we were like best friends. And I would be out at like the mall and stuff, and people would be like, oh my gosh, you're Har-Monica from MySpace. And I'm like, yeah. I had a girl recently, she was in my improv class actually, and she was like, I know this is really weird, but I remember you from MySpace. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Don't ever tell anybody this.
Well, I don't know. I didn't understand it.
Oh, consider yourself lucky.
Yeah.
It was a bad time.
I just remember like I was at a job and a guy was like, yeah, I got a boy. He hooks up with like 2 or 3 girls off of MySpace. Like that's what he had it for. I was like, oh, that's what it's for. Like, yeah, I was already married at the time, so I was like, oh my, I definitely don't need to be on there because it's like I'm good. So
yeah,
all right.
It was a weird thing. It was very weird. Like this was back in the day, you know, before I was strong in my faith or anything, but like someone would put like, oh, we're having a party tonight, and like 300 people would show up because they saw it on MySpace. It was
really,
yeah, it was ridiculous.
That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
But I guess so was it set to like locations then? It was like, or people would post like, hey, we're having a party at XYZ address, so if you're around then, or if you see it, then come through. But I
don't really remember how it worked. Like I think what was different, it was kind of like Twitter. Like, you know, Facebook is all people you know. MySpace was, you would just like add everybody that seemed cool, even if you didn't know them, you know? So
like Twitter kind of like,
yeah.
Oh, I like, you know, this person says things that are, you know, for whatever reason, I'm going to follow.
Yeah. So you would just like follow random people, and then they'd post like, hey, I'm having a party. And then you'd invite all your friends and other people would invite theirs. And it was crazy.
Well, I guess part of it though is like at that time, like if you had one, then it was like your friends that you were actual friends with in real life also had ones, right? So it was like probably like you extended that network from wherever you were, because it was like, well, I'm friends with so and so, and they went to, you know, the school across town.
Yeah.
But you know, they have, you know, reach with those people. So like, yeah, if we posted that have a party at XYZ, it's like it's going within that network. It wouldn't, you know, because that's how, you know, like you said, that's how Facebook was, right? Like I these are all people that I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like its own.
Like people requested me, like, I don't know you. Like, no, get out of here. Well, yeah. Maybe that's me. I don't know. Some people were like, oh, they like, you know, people to, you know, having a lot of friends was kind of like a currency or something. But for me, it was like, I'm actually I'm really a private person. So like, I don't know you. No.
Yeah, that's how I was on Facebook. Like, get away from me. But MySpace was more just like, it wasn't even, I mean, you'd be friends with people you knew, but it was like, there was just this weird subculture of people. Like everyone had a persona on there. Like no one used their real name. They'd pick like this weird name, and it was just very strange. But that was like,
But that was like your email address too, right? Like your email address wasn't your real name when emails first came out. It was like whatever made up name.
Yeah.
And so I probably the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was very strange. I'm surprised because it just kind of ended. Like well, I guess Facebook kind of took over, but it was strange
Well, I
times.
think when Google came out with their emails, that's when it was like, well, yeah, my email now is my name because, well, I think it came with needing a job or applying for a job. Like, you didn't want to put like, twerking queen 24/7 on your job application. Like this is where you're going to email me. So it was like, email me at Joel Lopez because
boy lover 69.
Yeah, not the most, not the way to start off and make a good first impression. No. I think that was probably where like the kind of, I don't know, professionalized, but just kind of the fun emails kind of went away. You're not actually giving them out more.
Yeah, sad times. I think we all should have just stuck with it.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, if you run your own business, it's fine, right? But if you're trying to get a job, it's like, hey, yeah, I got to play by these rules,
right?
And so you had said, one of my favorite things that you had brought up on the timeline is for the kingdom. It was like after everything you say for the kingdom, and I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, and we had kind of talked about it on the original podcast that you were not happy with, so I'm redoing it for you. But how did that come about? And you did say that before we hopped on that you had some news about that.
So so the For the Kingdom thing, I don't know. I have a friend in college that used to say that all the time, and like it just caught on. And I was thinking about the one day, like I totally forgot about it for years, and I just tweeted something about it, and you, like, I don't think anyone else really cared, but you did. Mm-hmm. And we both just started using it, and then other people did. Like I have one guy who, like, everything I say now, he's like, for the kingdom ? And I'm like, yes, for the kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah. Do it, baby. Yeah. This is what it's all about.
Yeah. So I was thinking the other day, I've been brainstorming for a while. Like I've always wanted to make t-shirts and stuff like that. I mean, who doesn't really? But I was like, that would be such a good clothing company for the kingdom. And so I like looked it up and nothing exists like that. So we're in the process of making some For the Kingdom clothes. So
you know what's funny that you say that, because I actually had the same idea, and I was watching the Chosen, the Jesus show.
Yeah,
I just saw it because it was like I was actually at Walmart and I was getting something for my son, and I was like, oh, I want to get a movie or something because when I don't know what it was, but we had something happen with our Amazon account, or like we had like no internet for a while or something. When I was like, you know what, I before I had all this stuff online, Netflix or whatever, and I canceled my Netflix, it's like I think I should have like hard copies of stuff, because I was starting to get rid of like my CDs and stuff like that. But like movies, it was like, oh, I think I should have some. Anyway, I saw the Chosen, and I was like, oh, I remember somebody saying that this was like a very good show, but there's a part of me that's like, Christians do like, it's always like kind of cheesy. Like it's never well done. That's like when the Passion of the Christ came out, it was like, wow, yes, like we finally have somebody who did it like in a big studio way. And same thing with like Kanye. It's like, oh, finally somebody who's kind of done it in like a very like high level. But I was like, well, I haven't seen this show, and I'm always like, if I'm gonna buy something, I want to know that I like it before I buy it. So that's not like my first experience of it. But I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna support the kingdom. This is for the kingdom. So I bought it. But then watching the show, like looking at the shirts that they wear, like the old Jesus shirts, I was like, dang, that would be kind of dope if like they had like these old, because I wear like V-necks, but I also like Henleys, and I was like, but these are like some like old like Henley type shirts, and like what if people wore those for the kingdom? That'd be kind of cool. Like it's just kind of like a like a signifier, like putting a coexist sticker on your car. But like if you wear the old Jesus shirts, it's like, oh yeah, he's for the kingdom, or like, she's for the kingdom.
Yeah. So what you're saying is I need to make for the kingdom cloaks.
Is that what they're called? No, they're not. They're not cloaks. They're shirts. Like, watch this. Have you seen the show?
No, I haven't. I know. I tried to watch it, and then it was like it wanted me to subscribe. Someone told me it was free if I download the app, so I did, and then it wanted me to subscribe like halfway through the episode. So I've been putting it off, but I do want to watch it eventually. I heard it's very good.
No, it was really good, and it was fun because, like, the struggle that I have. Well, not the struggle that I have, but like, I want to be able to watch stuff with my kids around, and a lot of stuff that I want to watch. It's like, well, like the only thing that I like that I watch like when they're around for sure is like sports. Like, I'm a big college football fan, so like we watch football. Like that's like the one thing like they know. But other than that, like I'm starting to get into like older movies. Like, I was like last night I was watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and it's like, you can watch that with daddy. Like, all right, cool. But for the most part, most of the stuff that I want to watch, it's like, I can't watch it with them. So that was kind of, part of the reasoning for it. It was like, oh, it's a well done show. And I think it kind of like gets into like this is probably, in the Bible, they'll say stuff, but it's like, man, there's a lot of stuff that's going around in there. And I think they kind of try to fill in all those stories around it to kind of give you a flavor of, because like everybody's story is like a lot more intricate, and people do things for more intricate reasons than you get credit for. And I think that they kind of filled that in a really cool way, where it made it like really enjoyable to watch as like a standalone show, like taking away like the message of it, which obviously 10 toes down for. But I think that the Bible has incredible stories, but we've been, Christians have been out storied when we have the best stories. Like, it's like, hey, I believe in the Bible. I believe that Moses, God split the sea. They'd be like, you believe that Moses split the Red Sea? Well, by the way, I was watching Game of Thrones and there were these dragons. It's like, oh, okay, like you're okay with the dragons, but you're not okay with splitting the Red Sea, which sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that from what I hear of it, my pastor's wife talks about it all the time. Like, every time I see her, she's like, "Did you watch The Chosen?" I'm like, "Not yet." And she's like, "You gotta watch it." That's what she says, is that it's very well done. And it just really makes you realize like all the little details of everything. And I think I'm getting a new appreciation for the Gospels in general, because I'm doing a Bible study on Matthew right now, and I'm doing a workbook that asks like very deep questions, and very specific questions about some of the little details that means so much and have so much meaning to it. But I think we just get in the habit sometimes of just like reading scripture because that's what you're supposed to do, and not really putting yourself in the mindset of like, this really happened. You know, this was really going on.
Well, like, I haven't had him on the show, but I think about Jeff Putnam. He's on Twitter. I don't know if you followed him, but he has like 8 or 9 kids, and from what I understand, like he had a job that paid well, but he never saw his kids, and then one day he kind of had the realization like, I haven't seen my kids, and so he like leaves this well-paying job to be with his family, and they go through some hardships. And I think about like, he's very successful now, and he's on the other side of it, but that's a big deal. Like for me to think I'm possibly going to be taking things, my kids might pay a price for me making this decision. Like, my kids play sports, so I pay for preschool. We live in a nice house. That I could make a decision that could potentially take that away from them, and that they would have to pay any kind of price. Like, that's a really hard thing as a man. Like, because that's a very hard thing. Like, I don't know if any people really understand like how much of a decision, like how much, how much balls that took to do that. And, same thing when you're reading the scriptures to say like, oh, Joseph stayed with Mary. It's like, well, you don't understand what kind of pressure that was around that he dealt with to make that decision. Like we can say here from 2021, like, oh, no big deal, because so there people are have kids out of wedlock all the time, but you don't understand what kind of pressure that was for them at that time, because we're doing it from a 2021 Western mind, not a 2,000 years ago Hebrew Western mind. And so like I think that's part of what the show kind of does. Is it puts on the societal aspect of it, and it puts in your mind, it's like, oh, this is what they dealt with. Like these were not easy things that they did. It wasn't just like, all right, Jesus is turning water into wine. Like they kind of went over that miracle, and it was like the pressure that kind of went around all that and why it was a miracle. Because like you read it and just like, yep, Jesus turned water into wine. It's like, yeah, of course Jesus turned water into wine. It was like, well, they didn't know that he was Jesus. Like he's still revealing himself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's very hard to understand sometimes, like I think that's why a lot of new Christians struggle to read the Bible, or people that are even interested in Christianity, because there's so much historical context that goes into it. And that's why I love study Bibles. And I'm so thankful that I went to a Christian college that really dug in. Like we had to take an Old Testament class and a New Testament class, and we really had to dig into some of that history, because there are things that just make absolutely no sense outside of that context. And kind of along the lines of what you were saying, like we read this stuff, and it's especially if you grew up in the church, you're like, yeah, like Jonah was in a whale. Like, oh, wow. But like to realize that stuff really happened is crazy. And we forget, I think that's the biggest struggle that people have with their faith, is we forget just how powerful God is and how powerful Jesus is. I mean, the whole Gospels talk about Jesus healing the sick and healing the blind and all these things. And I'm a big believer, like I'm just now learning these things, like these things, like we can still be healed from some of these things today, but we lack faith. And I think part of that is we read it and we're like, yeah, that happened back then, but like, miracles don't happen today. But I just don't think that's true.
I think that's a good point. Well, but I think we've become very rational, and also we've become very comfortable. Like, I'll hear stories of like missionaries who go to like, impoverished places, and, all these miracles break out. And it's, I think part of it is because, we have science. It's like, okay, like, somebody is sick for XYZ, go take them to the doctor. And the thought in your mind to be like, well, maybe I should pray for them and, see what happens. But, there's a part of like, well, I don't want to look like a fool, because that's like one of the worst things that you can, that's like one of the biggest deaths now, right? It's like looking like a fool. But, I kind of do that on my own now. So I'm kind of like figuring out a way to kind of embrace that to, for the kingdom. And like, I'm not even saying that jokingly, that's like a real, like, if I'm going to be a fool, I might as well be a fool for this. If I'm believing God to take me to heaven, if I'm teaching my children that this is the way to go, then it's like it's an all or nothing thing. It's not a like, hey, this stuff is true and this stuff is like, it's like, no, man, it's all of it.
I want to look this up. Last night I'm in the worship band at church, and we're reading a book. Oh, I can't remember what it's called, but it's just about worshiping and how, it's become kind of a entertainment business to some, worship music, when the reality is like worship is the presence, like we're worshiping the presence of God, right. And like as being on the worship team, we're just learning a lot about like, that's, we're portraying the presence of God. And one of the people there was talking about hallelujah and I think the Hebrew word, Halil. Let's see if I can find it. Halil. I can't find the exact definition because I don't know how to spell it, but it was something about just like acting a fool, and not worrying that you look that way. And I think that is a huge part of, even with all this COVID stuff, like people think you're crazy if you're like, I'm just, I'm trusting God. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're trusting God? Like, are you an idiot?
Yeah. Well, I think back to like, everybody reads the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and thinks that they do that. And then you look around and you're like, that's why they were exceptional, because everybody else did it and they didn't. So like everybody reads, stories about Nazi Germany and thinks that they wouldn't, but it's like, no, 99% of the chances that you're going to be going along just with it. So settle down here.
History repeats itself.
I wanted to like, I saw that you tweeted something about like you didn't like Christian rap, and
don't come for me.
No, I'm the same way. It's like it doesn't sit. Well, I kind of want to talk about a few things, but like that's kind of what we'll start with. Yeah. But that's I think one of the reasons why I liked what Kanye did so much, because I think that like the Christian rap, because like I grew up on it, so there was like a certain amount of like.
You grew up on Christian rap?
Or you grew up
on rap. Okay.
Rap, right. There was a certain amount of like, Kanye was already at the highest level, and then he kind of like gave it away. Like, no, like I don't need it. Where from what I see, it's like the Christian rap, it's like they're trying to use that still to kind of come up, and it doesn't sit quite as right. Where I feel like Kanye kind of gives it up, whereas like they're trying to gain from it. And I don't mean gain from it in like a bad way, but just like, part of a rap is like the swagger, the braggadocio of it, and Kanye had that, and then he kind of gives it away to humble himself for what he did. And I think that's why I thought it was so impactful. And the stuff that he was saying on there too, I think is probably one of the most influential things. Like I listened to it in the car with my kids, and they sing along, and when they see Chick-fil-A, they think of his Chick-fil-A song, and it's like, oh, like these are like good, these are good things, these are like things that I think are gonna help my children and be helpful. What was your you don't have to say your reasoning, because I think sometimes you could say like, hey, I tweeted that just to be funny or whatever, but like if there was something behind it, then that'd be kind of cool to discuss.
I don't know, like, and I don't, you probably know more than me, like I don't know, like I've, it's funny because you tweet something like that and people of course are like, well, listen to this guy, and I'm like, that's like, I've listened to things, I try to give it a chance, but I don't know if I think my problem's probably more, I'm still so like, I used to only listen to rap, and then I started listening to worship music and rap, and now I try to listen to 90% worship music, 10% rap, because I'm trying to be very careful of what I fill my mind with. And I know a lot of people would disagree, and they would say, don't listen to any of that. Like the messages are terrible, And there are some things as I get, say, stronger in my faith that I just can't listen to anymore. Like I was a big Cardi B fan, and now I'm like, like kind of hurts my ears. But like A$AP Rocky, Kanye West, like I don't think I could ever stop listening to them. And I struggle with that because A$AP Rocky says some questionable things, but it just doesn't compare, I guess. And it's terrible, like, because obviously the words in Christian rap are so much better, and they're trying to be life-giving and those sorts of things. And but I don't know. I can't really describe it. It comes across as corny to me. And I'm sure there's a Christian rapper I haven't heard that I would absolutely love, but thus far, and it's not like I had a lot of people on there saying, I don't like Christian music at all. I'm like, I absolutely love Christian music, and I didn't used to, but and I know Hillsong Church has all this stuff people don't like about it, but as far as their music goes, like I love it. I could listen to that. I listened to the same Hillsong album for 2 years straight.
Right. I think that's where we're in agreement, because I saw that too, and I was like, yeah, I'm the same way. Like I remember being in church and being like, the music is not good.
Yeah.
And I think that I would like things to be done with excellence, right? Like I think that honors God, and I think that they're like, yeah, their theology, like people can come up with any kind of thing to, not be happy with, but like their stuff is excellent. Like I think people say like, oh, you go to the church for the concert. It's like, well, people go to concerts, they're getting a religious experience. Like that's why people go. Like I was listening to I don't know if you've heard of him, Miles Monroe, but he's outstanding. He passed away like 8-9 years ago, but he's like, I saw this worship leader and he had thousands of people just going like on every word. And he's like this little white boy, Eminem. And I was like, yeah, like they're like people they're having an experience here. Yeah. So why not use this? Cause it's outstanding. Like I really like Hillsong, Bethel. Like I listen to that, in the car with my kids. It's like, this is great music. Yeah. So, you can have whatever qualms you want with their ministries or whatever, but the music is outstanding.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, there's problems in every church, and we're all human. Like nothing's going to be perfect. It just depends on your own relationship with God and what that music brings to you. Mm-hmm. And that's how, like for me, like I don't know all the drama with Hillsong. I've heard, but I don't I don't watch their church services. I don't know any of that. I just know that some of their songs have really brought me closer to God, and listening to it has, like just times where I'm going through something rough and I turn that on and I'm just calmed and I feel God's presence. So I think God can use anybody, and even if their intentions aren't always the best,
Right. I'm the same way. It's like the word of God doesn't come back null and void. So if it's say a prosperity preacher or a shamed televangelist, it's like, hey, if he said it from the Bible, like that's seeds being spread somewhere.
Well, I mean, look at every single person in the Bible. They were all a hot mess.
Yeah.
Like we're all human.
Right. So it's like, yeah. And we have this expectation that we hold them to these expectations that are just not realistic. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the music, because I remember being in church and just being like, yeah, I'm worshiping. And there's a part that says like, hey, whether the music is good or bad, like, yeah, worship. But like, if you have your choice, why wouldn't you? It's like saying like, hey, I have, a steak over here, and like, oh, here's like some ground beef. It's like, well, if I can have the choice of steak, like, why wouldn't I? I mean,
yeah.
I like it. It's good.
Yeah, I agree. It's been really cool being on. I've never been on a worship band before. I've never been in a band before. I just kind of play music just more as like a comedy thing, but being in the worship band, I came into this church and, they're playing all these songs I had never heard before. And a lot of times we don't know what songs we're playing until 2 days before. So on top of work and everything, I'm like, I have to only listen to these songs for the next 2 days. So I'll just play the same 3 worship songs on repeat. Songs that like you first hear them, you're like, I could care less if I ever heard that song again. Listening to them over and over and like really hearing the words and the music and everything, it's beautiful. And it's definitely expanded my horizons a little bit, because I think you're probably the same way. Like I grew up listening to my dad tried to force Christian music on me, like DC Talk and all that. And I couldn't stand it. Mm-hmm. And I had a choice between that and oldies, and I would listen to oldies. So I was like Beach Boys, Beatles, like all that stuff. That's all I would listen to. But as I got older and learned that I could get my friends to buy me cassette tapes and I could hide them, I started listening to rap and, Nirvana and stuff like that. And that's just all I ever listened to. So I was just so turned off by Christian music. I loved it in church, but not to listen to for fun. But now, like, that's what I crave listening to most times.
Yeah. Do you think part of it is just maturity? Because I think about that because you mature and you understand like this isn't the best song to listen to. Like I listen to it now, and then these are life-giving words that I'm listening to. But the music, I mean, I really think that I would listen to it regardless, just because the music is so good. Like there's a guy that I got on loop like all the time. His name is Leon Bridges, and he's got this song called The River, and like I listen to it all the time. And like I think he's a I don't know, not a pop singer, but like he's like this young, I think kind of like got a jazzy kind of soulful, and it's just like, man, like I feel like I'm in church listening to this song, but I don't and it has over like Jesus stuff, but like he has other songs that have nothing to do with it, and I think that's kind of a nice like prove your musical chops, but then also give honor where honor is due. And I don't know if that's like, I don't know much about him, but I know that he's made a few songs where like, oh man, like you just went to church right now, and this is outstanding. And I listen to it on loop, and then my kids will be like, Daddy again. I'm like, dang, hold on, man, I'm in church right now. Stop.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, music is very powerful. There's a YouTube video. There's probably more that exists like this, but I only saw one. I think it was Elevation Worship. It was this guy, and the title was Atheist Listens to a Worship Song or Reacts to a Worship Song. And he played the YouTube video and just showed himself listening to it. And like, he's in tears crying. And he's like, I never heard anything this beautiful. Like, this is amazing. And, when I hear a lot of songs that I love and like really hit me, but there's nothing like finding a song that takes God's word and makes it into music. Like it just hits different,
Yeah, I've had that thought continually that I don't know if there's any music that reaches higher. And I think that's a credit to Hillsong and Bethel and Elevation. Like, yeah, like I have like a worship playlist, and like they're all over. It's like I don't know if there's anything as beautiful as the word.
Yeah.
As what they've made. And there's some great songs, and I've listened to a lot of music. There's very, very good songs, but I wouldn't categorize a lot of them as beautiful. And even like, I don't know, it's a famous violinist or pianist. It's like, oh, like this is a really pretty song, but there's nothing like beautiful like when they mix those words. And it's like, man, like there's something here that you can't deny.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to what you're saying before. Like people say like, oh, it's like a concert, which like I'd much prefer a church that didn't have flashing lights and all those things. Because I don't need that. But I think to some people, like, I think the fear is that people will just have this emotional experience and not go further than that. But I think sometimes that's what people need, is they need to be met where they're at. And music is such a way to speak to people. Yeah. And you hear a worship song and it's in your head all week, and you just keep thinking like those are good, God's word being, in your brain. Like, I think it can open up your mind a little more to be like, what was that? Like, what was that feeling that I felt? Because, God's there, like God's in his church.
Yeah.
Even when there's corruption.
Or even when you don't like the song. Yeah, I think, people really struggled with like churches being closed down. And I found a new church. I moved churches, and it was like, that was like one of the first things. It was like, oh, it's great just to be able to like, I think worship happens anywhere and everywhere. It's not confined to the four walls of the church. And it's not, do I want a church building that looks nice? Yes. All that stuff. But all of that aside, it's like, people missed worship together, and I missed it. And so to be able to go back and find that when people are like wanting to go to concerts, I think that's why I understood now. Cause like I was never a concert guy. Like I was like, I don't want to go to a concert. Like all these people, like that isn't, step on somebody's shoes and get in a fight. Like that doesn't sound fun, and spending all this money for that. Like, no, but I guess maybe I was getting it at church, and I get it, once a week. And now I go, twice a week because I'm working from home. So it's like, okay, so it's another drive, like no big deal.
Yeah.
people miss it, and they're excited about getting shots to be able to go and do that. It's like, well, man, I got a concert 2 times a week. Like I'm good.
Yeah, I get to see live music. It was really cool about the I mean, I don't like to say it was really cool about the pandemic, but with everything shutting down and nothing normal, like masks everywhere, I was able to get quite a few friends that would never step foot in a church come, because I was like, no one wears masks there and it's normal. Like, they were just craving being around people and just feeling normal. And my friend came with me for a service, and she was like, I've just felt so normal there. Like, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing me there. And she actually reached out to me when I told her that, because she's not a believer, but I told her, like, yeah, I went to this new church today. It was awesome. No one had a mask on. People were holding babies. And she was like, can I please come with you? I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah. I actually thought about this. It's funny that you said that. Because I didn't know that there was like a lot of like disagreement between like denominations that kind of go through, and like there's like the whole Baptist organizations, and all these are like that's foreign to me, because I've always been kind of non-denominational. It's like, hey man, like I'm here for the kingdom. Yeah. Like if you're not like that's
for
all. Like
kingdom.
you don't need to make it more complicated than like I'm for the kingdom. Like I want what God wants. Like that's what I want. Like you're adding to when there's not unnecessary, but like you're having these fights amongst each other about like your theology and your doctrines, when like we have like the greatest harvest that's just craving the kingdom now. Like they're all here. They just want to be invited. They just want a place where they can feel normal. They want a place where they can hold babies. They want a place where they don't have to wear a mask. They want I remember like after 9/11, like there was just parking lots full of people. It's like, you work in mental health. Like people are like struggling in their minds. It's like, we have the solution is right here. Like it's all here. And you're missing it because you're worried about like, having a power struggle. So, hopefully it's good. Maybe it's good that you kind of move yourself out of this fight, because you wouldn't be the right one to do it anyway, because you're concerned with other things. But like, it's like a massive loss. I think it's like a huge wasted opportunity. But I think it could, for the right people, for the right churches, that it's like, okay, they'll pick it up. The believers that are for the kingdom, like, well, don't worry, you weren't in this for the right reason, and you just cleared yourself out of the way. So I guess that's the silver lining on top of the silver lining, because I understand what you mean. It's like people have suffered, like marriages, suicides, all that stuff. That's awful. But silver lining is like, okay, like what good can come of this? And like, hopefully, we can be a part of that.
Absolutely. I think God made us to be relational people. It says, that's why Eve was created. It's not good for man to be alone. And I take that as it's not good for man to be alone at all without relationships. And that's what this whole thing has been about, is like, stay away from people. And I think that not every church, but the churches that have just remembered, like, it is so important that we worship together and that we fellowship together, and we can't let that go because we're scared of getting sick, have just have gotten a lot of people through this time. And I know for myself, I mean, my faith has, and I hear people say it all the time, their faith is just so much stronger because of the time to think, because of that fear of like, like, when am I going to get to go to church again and stuff like that? Like, it just makes you realize what's valuable and what's not.
I think this is a good wrapping up point, Monica. I think we're coming up on an hour and 15 minutes here. Did you want to go ahead and any last kind of thought before we wrap this bad boy up?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot. Just tune into my podcast that I don't have a name for yet, with Dev and Christiana. that should be coming out I think we're starting next week. So I don't know.
I meant to ask, is that just you three all the time, or are you guys gonna bring guests on?
I don't know yet. We had a planning meeting yesterday and we're just kind of brainstorming. So we're going to record the first episode next week. And I think we're kind of just going to decide what we're going to do as time goes on. Mm-hmm. So
very good.
I'm sure we'll have guests at some point.
All right. I can be a guest if you need a guest.
Yeah, we'll call you up for the kingdom.
For the kingdom, baby. I am speaking to Monica. You can find her on Twitter at Take Har-Monica. You can also find her website at